This is the
that
first
we
and
do
last
this.
episode of this segment.
All right, guys. So I just because of Gabe's taste, and Will and I share not the same but very similar taste. I figured just in the group chat we were talking while just spewing some ideas for the channel and the podcast. I was like, Will and Chase tell Gabe to watch Tokyo Gore Police, and then I pretty much left it at that. And then Gabe comes back, I think like 1-2 days later, and he is like, Will and Chase tell Gabe to watch it. Yeah, this is the first and last time.
This is the
that
first
we
and
do
last
this.
episode of this segment.
So he watched it. And then he told me, because I had just recently acquired, which I had talked about, Inception from the archive with a slip. And I've always wanted to watch this movie. So he told me he wanted me to watch it. So out of respect and reciprocation, I did. But I have been bursting at the seams to hear Gabe's thoughts on Tokyo Gore Police, because it is definitely not something in his wheelhouse, but it is a movie that I have so much love for because it was made in only 2 weeks. You can't even find the budget. It's damn near as if it was a tax write-off for somebody somewhere, or even like a money laundering front. So, Gabe, what were your thoughts on Tokyo Gore Police? Where did you watch it? How did you find it? Tell us all.
Found it on Tubi, our
Oh, nice.
most beloved app of all time.
Love it.
Literally, and I don't know if it popped up because so just some background. This was a joke, right? You had texted
Yeah.
like, Gabe or Will and Chase tell Gabe to watch Tokyo Gore Police, and I was like
Yeah.
chuckling at it. I'm like, that's funny. And then I was just like the whole week I was watching a whole bunch of like Japanese movies, Japanese horror movies, and then like and then I saw it. I don't know, it just popped up on my thing, and I'm like, oh, there's Tokyo Gore Police. I don't know how it was recommended to me, but and I
You
was
were
like, you know what? I
listening.
was like, I'm gonna watch it. I was like, I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna surprise Jason Will. I'm gonna watch this movie, and I a lot of movies, guys, especially like I just don't have the time. So I sometimes I'll watch them on the treadmill or elliptical in the
Yeah.
morning because I go to the gym before work. So um, I started watching it, and dude, okay, I went like the first 10-15 minutes. I'm like, okay, this is definitely kind of like a B movie kind of thing, right? You got the dude with the chainsaw, the woman's chopped up, and this girl's like cutting her arm in the freaking car, right?
Yeah.
So just to give you my initial impressions, I'm like, okay, this is B movie. Like I'm like, let me orient myself here. This is not what
Let me
I
align
thought
my
it was gonna
thoughts.
be. Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
let me try to keep myself congruent with what this movie's trying to be, right?
Yeah.
So I did that, and it only lasted like 10 minutes because this movie, bro, it's I can't even formulate my words. I I hate calling it trash because what you just said, I didn't know. I didn't know it was filmed in 2 weeks,
Yeah.
right? So I kind of respect it in that regard. But this movie, even when I know that it's trying to be over the top and crazy on purpose, which I'm totally fine with,
Yeah.
even in that regard, it's still too over the top hazy for
I
me. Like
love it.
it's too
Yeah.
much, bro. It's too the gore, which I'm fine with. It just gets so fucking excessive, and like I get numb to it. Like it's just like I think I told you in the text chat that I was hanging in there, but as soon as I got to the point where this dude is like has like a mutant penis growing out of him, and it's shooting everyone, right? And they're like dodging it, and
Yeah.
I'm like I can't anymore. I mentally checked out, dude. I just couldn't. I couldn't do it
Yeah.
anymore, and it's just it. And it's weird because the first 15 minutes it did kind of intrigue me. This whole notion of
Like on the
this
skyscraper and the construction building and stuff like
yeah,
that.
and like
Yeah.
this is like a privatized like police force, and like the girl, I don't know what the actress's name is, but like she looks badass. Like she looks like a really cool character, and
Yeah.
I'm like, this is kind of like an interesting premise, but I started. I can't even formulate my words with this movie, bro. It's just so bad. Like, and I'm fine like with camp, like when I know that a movie's trying to be over the top,
Yeah.
but it even pushed that, like even to where I'm like, okay, I know mentally this is supposed to be over the top, but it's
Yeah.
still pushed beyond that to where it's like this is way too much, bro. I can't I can't even remember some of it's like a fucking blur. I think when the dude's like the final dude she's fighting, like his legs get chopped off, but his blood is like a freaking like propelling him in the air as like a jetpack, like a video game boss of some
Yeah.
sort. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on with this movie, dude? It's just like
Yeah.
I can't. I think, and I don't know. You tell me, like when you watch this, is it like like it's like that's so fucking awesome that they're doing that because it
Yeah.
is over the top?
Hell
Is it
yeah.
that?
Yeah. So for people tuning in, they'll probably get a kick out of it that I recommended it to you because it was one of our first watch parties where we all like probably find a movie on Tubi and they're like, oh, just go into the chat in the Discord and we just talk about it. And Will was a part of this because he had actually seen this movie. And shout out Bloody. He's probably tuning in. He tunes into a lot of these. He threw this recommendation out there and we were like, fuck yes, say less. This is the movie after we watched the trailer. And so we all just had a blast. Everybody in there just had the time of their lives, especially the part where like he was amputated and then he's using it as like a jetpack going around, like a little samurai and stuff like that. We just had an absolute blast. I loved it, especially it had, I don't know what, you can't find the budget, which makes me strongly believe it was a money laundering front. You are not going to
Yeah, it's
change my
probably
mind
like you
on
said,
that.
maybe a tax write-off. I totally
Yeah.
100% agree with that. I think it's had to be a tax
Yeah.
write-off.
Yeah.
The only way I can enjoy this movie, bro, is if you were like to get me drunk or like fucking roofied my drink somehow. Like that's the only way I'm gonna be able to enjoy this movie. And like you said, you and I have different tastes. And
Yeah.
I can deal with camp to some degree, right? It's like,
Yeah.
the level of self-awareness and I get this movie self-aware with it, but it's like, dude, what I feel like they were just like, just do it just to do it. Just
Yeah.
when she's giving the dude oral and she just bites it off, and it's like, what the fuck is going on here, man? Like, I don't understand. I really don't. And I know they try to explain it with the freaking engineer, and like when she fights the engineer, she sliced his head in half,
And he
and then
just
like
grows
the
back.
and then yeah, it grows back with the eyeballs popping out, and I'm like, I don't know. I did have this thought. I think you and I were talking about it briefly. I don't know if this just would have been better as an anime.
Yeah.
Like, in my opinion, just because like animes are over the top, right? And the plots are just so fucking unbelievable sometimes. I'm like, if this was like an anime, I think it'd be a little bit more enjoyable. I don't know why, but when you have like, the fucking the cutting, like her cutting herself and just hacking at her fucking arm, and I'm like, this is too much, bro. I can't. It's just
Yeah.
way too much. By the time it was over and the credits hit, I'm like, I want to see. I don't want to see traumatized, but I was just like, I did not know there were movies like this out there. Like, I did not know that these movies existed.
We introduced you to a whole new world of schlock.
Oh my god, bro! It's just like, and I went on. I think I put it on Letterbox. I think I give it a 1.
Oh, you logged it? You went
I
as far to
logged it,
log it?
bro. I logged it, bro. And I gave
I
it a
didn't even
1
see
just because,
that.
like, I appreciate practical effects, right? I've always appreciated practical effects. So the fact that there were practical effects in this and most of it was
Yeah.
practical effects, I completely respect. And the
Great
main
practical
character,
effects.
yeah, and the main character, she's cool. She's badass. Like, I like the costume design on her, and like, her with the samurai sword and everything. It it looks cool, and it could be a cool
Yeah.
concept, but it's like, they didn't. I don't know if they cared. I think they were just like, just fucking go at it, do whatever you want. And it's like they were drinking, doing drugs, and they're like, let's do this as an idea. And then they filmed it. That's the vibe I got with this movie, dude. It's so freaking out there, but I get why some people might like it. I mean, if you
Yeah.
like, B house movies or camp or just shit on screen that you never think that you'd see in your life, like, this is your movie 100%. It is just not
Yeah.
my movie. You know what I mean? If I'm watching like fucking, my movies are like to give people insight. I'm like watching, like No Country for Old Men, There Will Be Blood, fucking Martin Scorsese movies, a lot of Criterion movies. I'm like going through freaking Criterion channel watching all those movies. Like, that's the shit I
Yeah.
typically watch. Like, and there are some camp movies I like. We watched, we talked about Friday the 13th, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of horror series that I appreciate, but it's like, this is like on the next level shit that I've never fucking imagined was possible, bro. I can't even formulate words for it, to be honest with you. Like, I've been wondering, like, I have my reaction, but I can't even like verbalize like my response to this movie just because of how fucking bombastic and out there it is. Like, it is just too fucking much. I gave it a 1 star. I don't think I'm ever gonna be watching this movie again, ever.
And well, yeah.
I can't.
I'm just glad you actually, like, out of non-seriousness, out of just a joke in the group chat, because it was a joke. I knew Will would like read it, and then he probably would even call me and be like, dude, that'd be an excellent thing, but he'll never check that out if he watches the trailer. That's what I was expecting from Will, and I don't even think he acknowledged that in there, or might have said LOL, and then you come back and you actually watched it, and so I was like, okay, whatever Gabe tells me to watch, I actually have to watch. I think you told me Killers of the Flower Moon, but it wasn't on streaming. I think
Oh,
that's
I
what
think
you
I
know. You
told you.
told me
No Country
No
for Old Men,
Country.
because that's like one of my favorite movies of all time. But
Yeah,
I know you just got an Inception,
yeah,
which is like one of my. I mean, I'm gonna do a Christopher Nolan ranking soon, but it's up there. It's one of my top Christopher Nolan movies. So I mean, what
yeah.
was your response with Inception, man?
Yeah, actually great. Like I remember the trailers for this movie dropping, it looking awesome. I will say that like looking back, I haven't seen, of course, as many Nolan movies as you have. I have a very small sample size. But Batman Begins doesn't start out balls to the wall this way. The Dark Knight definitely does, very action oriented at the very like first 20 minutes, even
Hmm.
longer, right? But I'd have to say this as a movie is one of the. I mean, Tokyo Gore Police is pretty balls to the wall and very tight. But in a story sense and a pacing sense, it doesn't breathe hardly ever. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? The most breathable moments is like Leo's character whenever they're going in talking about like his dream sequences, and there's like that and the Ellen Page dynamic between the two. That's when it slows down. But I had a great time with it. I did give it a 4 stars out of 5, but only for one reason, and it's just because like what I wanted out of it, not versus what it gave me. The Leo parts were awesome. I think they just needed to be not digested, but given a little bit more time to breathe versus everything else that was going on. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? That was I wanted more of either the heists that were like captured in the movie, like the dream within the dream type of stuff. I wanted more of that, or I wanted them to let that breathe a little bit more and give me more of Leo. And it was trying to balance it, and I think it did it very well. But I just wanted more of one or the other, right?
Gotcha.
Like the whole vault sequences and stuff like that. As good as that was, I could have used another 20 minutes of it because the runtime was so tight that by the time it ended, I was like, damn, that was 2.5 hours. Like I
Yeah.
fell asleep, not out of boredom, just an exhausting day, fell asleep halfway through it, then finished it the next morning. And yeah, had a great time with it. It definitely is up there as one of his best movies. I don't know if I would put it up there with Oppenheimer, or like one or the other, but they're two completely different types of movies. One's more
Yeah.
drama, this one's more sci-fi. And I don't know if you noticed this, but another complaint is like one of the first parts with Ellen Page's character, whenever she's manipulating her dream and he's like, be careful, like people are like white blood cells and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And then the city starts folding and
Hmm.
they walk upwards. There's a weird cut that happens. Did you ever notice that? Like they jitter. Like it's almost as if
I
whenever
gotta
they
watch
go
it
on there,
again.
they
Like
like
you mean
it.
like
Oh
right when
yeah,
they're walking up, or?
as soon as they touch to go vertical, like they're horizontal and then they take their feet and put it
Yeah.
up on the vertical slope. As soon as there's just a weird, not like a cut in the frame, but just how their bodies like jitter. And it happened a couple of times. And I don't have that critical of an eye. So I'm surprised you didn't be like, yeah, that happens a couple of times. But whenever they're changing, I don't know if that's supposed to be like an homage. And I was like waiting for it to see if I noticed any of the other ones. So that's why I tuned in even harder to see if like maybe this was explained, stuff like that. But that was really my only, like, not really a gripe because I thought it was more of an artistic choice. I had a great time with the movie. I really think that if like I had gotten a little bit more of the heistiness of it, or a little bit more evolution out of like what, and I mean it explains it all, you know
Hmm.
what I mean, and it explains all of like Leo's drama, like his character's drama and everything extremely well. I just think I wanted more, but I don't know what they could have done. Like what, like whenever you pose that question, what could they have sacrificed?
Yeah.
Nothing, because it's super tight. Like I said, the only times it breathes is when it's giving you exposition, right? So yeah, I mean, I'm happy. It was definitely, I guess my other thing is like the 4K isn't as good as it could have been. You know what I
Ye
mean?
Some
I don't know
people have
if you
complained
agree.
about the 4K. I mean, like, it's definitely some people talked about it with, like, Batman Begins too. Like, it's very kinda, like, fuzzy, like, in a sense, you know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like, it's not like, I mean, some good examples are, like, obviously, like, Oppenheimer or
yeah,
Dunkirk or Tenet, where they're just, like, crisp. I mean, even with, like, it being on film, it's just super crisp, super clear, and these are just, like, really kinda fuzzy in a way. Like, I mean, I think the real only difference with at least Inception, and Batman Begins is like the HDR.
Yeah. And the
Yeah.
HDR definitely helps elevate like it can be very dark at times and very bright.
Hmm.
And that's where I noticed it. But yeah, honestly, I thought the fuzziness was to play because you know how like they say like it's hard to recollect dreams or
Hmm.
faces in dreams or like distant faces. There were times I thought it was trying to play into that. Like they don't say that in the movie, but like scientifically they say like
Yeah.
faces and distances are harder to see in your dreams and recollect and stuff like that unless it's like more close and stuff. I thought it was trying to play on that, but no, like some of the distant shots, their faces were pretty fuzzy. But I
Yeah.
thought that was an artistic choice until it got to the very end because it is about dreams, right? Yeah, very solid front to back. I'm excited to dive more into Nolan's things, especially with
What
your rankings
about
coming out.
what about the ending? Obviously, because the ending is like a big, turning point for people in terms of whether they liked the movie or didn't like the movie. So, what did you think about the ending and the way it ends?
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was good. I mean, I think I remember talking to you. I don't remember if it was like a pre-roll or if we talked about it somewhere else where I picked up when I picked up the Inception. A lot of people said this movie was confusing, but it made perfect sense as long as you're watching it.
Hmm.
You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
As long as you're following along, it I don't know of a movie that has more layers to it that makes it so that you don't get confused. Even at the ending, it makes sense with like the little top.
Hmm.
You know, like I don't know if people at the ending would get confused, like, oh, are we still in a dream? Are we still in this? Are you still in that? Well, if you just paid attention to even some of the most minor of parts, you would be able to tell at the end what's going on. You know,
What
I
did you
felt it
take
was
it
good.
as? Was he dreaming or not dreaming at the end?
Not dreaming. Because I mean, spoilers for the next, I'd say minute, because he's
Yeah.
not dreaming. Because as far as I understood, their artifacts, I think is what they call it, right,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever the
They're
totems, right,
totems. Yeah.
the totem that they bring into there. So whenever they bring their totems in there, his spin never stops when he's in a dream. Whenever you watch
Hmm.
it, it indefinitely spins. But any other time, at least whenever I was recalling, because I was paying attention to that top after he spun it at the end, it starts wavering like
Hmm.
this. Any other time he spun it, it spun with
Hmm.
no wavering to it. So I took it that he was out of a dream and back with his family. The only thing that really kind of threw me off a little bit is the lady isn't there. But there's also allusions to that she's been dead for a while. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So he can only see her in the dreams. So you correlate that all together. He's back in the real world. It makes sense. You
There's
know?
a lot of theories for both, man. I'll maybe send you some later because I think that'd be a whole other freaking episode in and of itself. But it's interesting when you rewatch the movie. There's like solid arguments for both, and there's actually
Really?
hints throughout the movie of him, like some lines that he may still be dreaming, even in his, when he's coming out of it, so to speak. Um,
It's all been
it's
a
all
dream and a
yeah,
dream and a dream.
even yeah, I mean, years after watching it, I mean, I think overall, like, I mean, I've seen this movie, like, so many times, I agree with you, I think that he's not dreaming anymore,
Yeah.
but there's so many, like, solid arguments, and Nolan has even said that he doesn't, like, either or, like, is totally fine because it's just your perception of the movie, but some people have even, like, pointed to, like, when you see the kids kinda, like, their faces for the first time, like,
Yeah.
it's it's almost like exactly the way he's, like, seen them throughout the movie, like, every time, you see him in, like, dreams or, like, flashbacks, it's just the same freaking way exactly,
Yeah.
playing that same exact way, and it's ironic at the end, when he sees his kids, it's, like, playing the same exact way, so a lot of people brought that up, but
Hmm.
I'll send you all these
That's fair.
lines and stuff, it's pretty interesting, but I'm glad you liked it. I mean, 4
Yeah.
out of 5, that's pretty solid. I'm sorry I didn't
Yeah.
like Tokyo Gore Police, but I feel
I'm
like you guys
yeah.
knew that. I think you guys knew that going
Yeah.
in. Like, Gabe's
Y
gonna freaking question our
yeah.
psyche and our mental health after watching this movie.
You're just jaw dropping. I mean, I bet you. I mean, if you're willing to continue the movie challenges, I bet you there will be one I recommend your way that you
I'm
will
always
eventually like.
I'm always open to watching movies. Like,
Different.
even movies that are just, out there. Like, I mean, we just did a
Yeah.
podcast earlier today, but talking about blind buys. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm always willing to blind buy movies and watch movies at people's recommendations. Now, whether I like
Yeah.
them or not, that's a whole other
That's
story.
that's
But
up for perception. Yeah.
yeah, man, this one just did not land for me. 1 out of
Mm.
10 just because of I mean, I appreciate the practical effects and main character's badass, she's cool, but the
Yeah.
rest is just like, what the fuck is
Yeah.
is this movie, man?
Yeah.
But it's a fun challenge. I mean, I'd be curious to do one with like all three of us. You know, I mean, I don't know if that's possible. Do this segment where we're all kind of challenging ourselves to watch a movie each.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we'll figure something out. I think this was like a fun segment that we could probably continue and try to knock another one out here in the next few weeks.
Yeah. It'll definitely be fun. I'm sure it's either going to be something Nolan, Flowers Moon, um,
I'm kind
or
of
No Country for Old
itching
Men.
towards maybe No Country for Old Men because when you said that you haven't seen that, I'm like, I'm a huge fan of Cormac
It's up
McCarthy.
there for me to watch.
He's the
Yeah.
author of the book, and the movie's just it's resonated with me over like several years, man. It's just an incredible movie, but we'll see.
We'll
I'm sure
see.
we'll text a whole bunch of movies and see what we want to go with.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this. We thought it would just be so fun for you guys to see reactions and stuff. Had a blast doing this. Inception solid. As you can tell, Gabe absolutely loved Tokyo Gore Police. He probably would give it movie of the year by the end of this year.
Oh hell yeah,
So-
of course, 100%. Top 10 of the past like fucking decade, man. What are you talking about?
Better than No Country for Old Men for sure.
No.
As always, thank you guys. Stay tuned for more.
See you
later.
guys.